Now, following the news that Amazon has chosen part of New York for at least part of their site for the new headquarters, many New York progressives are now fighting back against the major subsidies that have been promised to the company. Now, this information is coming from an article in Capital in Maine. And in it, David Sirota writes about how progressives are fighting back not only against the massive subsidies, but also to redirect that money to helping regular people. Well, now that's interesting. Now, according to the article, Democratic Assemblyman Ron Kim announced that he will introduce legislation to slash New York economic development subsidies and use the money to cancel student loan debt for struggling New Yorkers. Now, that is a move he said would provide a bigger boost to the state's economy than giving Amazon, which is already a billion-dollar company, more subsidies. Now, the legislation, says Kim, would halt any Cuomo administration offer to taxpayer money to Amazon, which could reap up to $1 billion in tax incentives if it moves to Long Island City. Now, Cuomo, of course, look, Cuomo's a corporatist. That was what we were saying during the primary, the New York primary. He's running against Cynthia Nixon. Corporatists do what corporatists are going to do. And so he was shamelessly begging Amazon to come in and locate some of their headquarters somewhere in New York. In fact, he jokingly offered to change his name to Amazon Cuomo, which is both sad and partly believable. Now, Kim said, quote, giving Jeff Bezos hundreds of millions of dollars is an immoral waste of taxpayer money when it's crystal clear that the money would create more jobs and create more economic growth when it is used to relieve student debt. Now, this is in an op-ed he wrote with law professor Zephyr Teachout. So, Ron Kim, very progressive. And it's great to see him team up and introduce legislation to block this terrible deal. Now, this is not like we're dealing with Mississippi or anything like that. New York is majority Democrat. It is a very, very blue state. There is no reason that they should vote in favor of giving these massive subsidies to Amazon, to an incredibly wealthy company. Look, this is corporate welfare, right? Now, the op-ed continues. They said, giving Amazon this type of corporate welfare is no different, if not worse, than Donald Trump giving trillions in corporate tax breaks at the federal level. There's no correlation between healthy, sustainable job creation and corporate giveaways. If we use this money to cancel distressed student debt instead, there would be immediate positive GDP growth, job creation, and impactful social economic returns. And he is absolutely right. The impact here that it would have, according to a study done by researchers at the Levy Economics Institute of Bard College, says that canceling student debt would end up doing positive things. What positive things are they? Their economic models show that canceling student debt would lead to a boost in GDP by an average of $86 billion to $108 billion annually over the next 10 years. That is a pretty good increase. They also show that it would reduce unemployment rate by about 0.3%. But look, I know what a lot of people might be worried about. Well, what about the cost? You can't just take that money and cancel student debt. Well, what about jobs? Well, for one, the study actually talks about how many jobs are created by subsidies. Hint, it's not money, but also in what canceling student debt would do, because it would cost money, right? Now, nationally, and this isn't just about New York, but this is the national numbers, about $1.4 trillion is what the American people owe on student debt. That is the outstanding student debt for all Americans, right? Now, that same report said the cost of paying that off would only have a modest effect on the deficit and inflation over the next 10 years, meaning that it wouldn't have a gigantic effect on the debt, and would actually be very positive for the economy. Now, the impact by the way. They said it was moderate, right? Or modest. I would say that it's probably less of an impact than the trillions of dollars in tax cuts Trump gave to rich people with the tax bill. Now, how come nobody asked about the economic impact of that? But we always have to ask about the economic impact of doing things like Medicare for all, or in this case, canceling student debt, which we should absolutely do. But of course, giving to the rich is unfortunately what a lot of our politicians on both sides of the aisle keep doing. Why do they do that? Why is this even a discussion in New York? Why is the governor falling, going head over heels for Amazon to give them massive subsidies? It's because that's what the donors want. And look, according to researchers, New York has the most expensive set of corporate subsidy programs in the country. New York is not a red state, it is a blue state. It is one of the bluest of the blue. And yet, they give all this money to corporations. They are very corporatist. Now, maybe it would make sense to give them a corporate subsidy if it worked. But according to research, it doesn't. A report done by the W.E. Upjohn Institute for Employment Research found that such subsidies are, quote, not cost-effective, with either no statistically significant effects or large costs per job created. So basically, in essence, taxpayers are paying the company billions of dollars in exchange for jobs. That's stupid. That is a waste of taxpayer money. Oh no, we're going to ask the taxpayer to pay a giant corporation so that you'll give a job, so that they'll give you a job. You work that job and you pay the taxes, which the taxes go right back to the company that's employing you in the form of a subsidy. That is a ridiculous system. That is a horrible system. Why are we doing this? Because it's all about the money and it's all about the donors. Cuomo and the rest of the Democrats who are corporatists, they know what they're doing. Now, that said, there are a lot of progressives in the New York legislature now, especially now following the midterms, where a lot of these corporatists got crushed by the progressive wave. So I think Cuomo's going to have a really difficult time trying to get these subsidies passed because, look, people like Ron Kim are fighting against it. Not only that, but you also have Senator Michael Gianaris. Now, Gianaris led Democrats' successful effort to win control of the chamber, and now is expected to be in one of the chamber's, the Senate's top jobs in the state. Now, he said, along with Jimmy Van Bramer, both who represent Long Island City, where the Amazon headquarters is supposed to be located, said, quote, offering massive corporate welfare from scarce public resources to one of the wealthiest corporations in the world at a time of great need in our state is just wrong. The burden should not be on the 99% to prove we are worthy of the 1%'s presence in our communities, but rather Amazon to prove it would be a responsible corporate neighbor. Well, part of them being a responsible corporate neighbor would be to actually pay their fucking taxes, instead of getting massive gifts and giveaways for what would end up being basically very little return. I think capitalism fails when you have to have cities basically paying extortion money to corporations to create jobs in the area. That is ridiculous. That is crony capitalism, and it's absolutely wrong. And so hats off to these Democrats that are actually fighting against these corporate, these corporate donors and these giant corporations for taking massive amounts of welfare from the taxpayer. They should be giving back to the community instead of taking from it. Hey guys, hopefully you enjoyed that free video. Now I'm going to have to ask you a favor. Between the demonetization and the YouTube algorithm messing around with view counts, etc., we're having a hard time adjusting to the new YouTube reality, which is where you guys come in. See, we have a Patreon, patreon.com/TYTNation, set up to help us rely on you guys, the viewers, instead of big corporate ads. Look, you know the show. You know I'm not in favor of big corporations anyway. So help us transition away from relying on the ad model to pay the bills and sign up to be a patron, patreon.com/TYTNation. That goes a long way to help us keep the lights on. And you guys will know that you're supporting independent, progressive media.